Hi, my name is Robin Hanstead, and I am going to talk about my cultural trend, which is youth sports that have been professionalized in America. Sorry, my hair's kind of funny here. Okay. Um, the main thing that has caused this to be a trend is that what used to be um, basically recreational sports in America, where kids would participate every season in whatever sport was going on at that time. It might be baseball in the summer, basketball in the winter, football in the fall, that kind of thing. Kids would participate just in whatever season it was. Everybody had the same opportunities. It was just join up on a league. It was affordable for everybody. What has happened and what has changed is this trend that has really made youth sports more of a professional organization in which it's a very serious, competitive, expensive, time consuming business for kids. And it has actually grown into a $15 to $17 billion a year industry. And so it causes one to take a look and say, why has something that used to be done a certain way in our country with our kids turned into something completely different, something else entirely? And so that's where my paper took me as to if this is what the current trend is in youth sports, why is it that way? And what effects is this having on the culture as a whole? So as I started to look and try to figure out why has it turned into this, because it's not driven by the kids themselves, it has to be driven by the parents. And so as I found out through my research, one of the main things is the coveted college scholarship. And so obviously there's been high level sports and professional sports for a very long time, but the trend of grooming young children for that at earlier and earlier ages is a new trend. And so one thing that I found was that the college scholarship is something that is, maybe it's just an excuse, or maybe there is a real valid hope that if because of the rising costs of college tuition, some parents are saying, okay, if I have a really gifted athletic child and I do everything that I can, invest in the camps and the best coaches and the personalized training and all these things when they're young, they would have a better chance of maybe getting a full ride scholarship, which is thousands and thousands of dollars later on. Well, what the facts show is that really only about 2% of kids that participate in sports as youth end up playing at that high Division I NCAA college level. So if those are the facts and parents really know that honestly there's not a great chance that their kids are going to get this college scholarship, there's got to be something else that is sort of motivating this trend for parents to put their kids, what some of the research has shown to be actually at risk. And some of the things that they're looking at is, as far as detriment to kids, is a few things. One is that these kids are getting burned out at younger and younger ages because they're really looking at kids to focus on one sport, which is not good for physically for kids' bodies because they're not fully developed yet. So when you're using the same muscles over and over and over and over all the time, all year round, from very young ages, this is physically hard on the kids, as well as it's hard mentally, and kids start to burn out. Whereas before this trend started, as I said before, most kids would play whatever sport was in season at the time. Like I said, they would play baseball, basketball, football. For girls, it was other things. It might be soccer, gymnastics, volleyball, all these other things, and just play whatever was going on at the time. And there wasn't this high level of competition because there really was just the local city league that everybody had the same opportunity. And not that there might not have been all-star teams and those kinds of things through the years, but it was not to any degree that this trend has, where it's actually treating these young kids and athletes as professionals at a very young age. The pressure is very high, and it is causing parents and really everyone to ask, is this the best way to do this? Now, another thing that I looked at is that if parents really do know that the college scholarship is somewhat out of reach for most kids, then why is it that they are going ahead and pushing and training at these high elite levels for so much money and time? What's the motivator? And really what I found was that even if your child is an average athlete, what has happened is there's become kind of this peer pressure among parents that if their child doesn't compete and do all of these things, that they're not even going to be able to make the team, maybe even in middle school when like school sports start and that kind of thing. So what's happened is parents are going to PTA and this and that and talking in the neighborhood and finding out that, oh, your kid isn't signed up for all the camps this summer, your kid isn't signed up for the strength and conditioning, your kid's not signed up for this elite team and doesn't have a batting coach and doesn't have a pitching coach and all these things. And what happens is that this generation of somewhat overachieving helicopter parents are panicking, and one is causing the other to do more, and the other one's trying to keep up with the Joneses and do more. And pretty soon we have this whole generation of kids that maybe for the most part, maybe just a few of them would want to really do it at that high level, but it's ending up being everybody because parents don't want their kids left out when it comes down to just basically making the school team. And so there's that. The other issue when you look at a greater socioeconomic effect on the culture, and this is something that, to be honest, I really hadn't thought about, and I feel a little bit insensitive for not really understanding this, but my research showed me that of families who make over $100,000 a year, 41% of their kids are participating in sports, where when you go look at families that make less than $25,000 a year, only 19% are participating. So what this whole trend has done is it has actually pushed out a whole economically less fortunate group of families and their kids. And so what that means is that the culture has, or the trend has said, this is the way we're going to do this now, but it doesn't give those who can't meet those standards financially an opportunity. And that's not good. And according to the research and according to some of the opinions of the professionals, and honestly, I would agree that is not necessarily good for communities. This trend, I feel, is a divider of people. And another thing that has happened is that it has taken a lot of wonderful kids out of the arena of sports, and they're just sitting on the couch now. And so not only does it cause walls and barriers to be put up between people and communities, but it also really physically is not good for a large group of kids that just because they can't afford the $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 elite select fee to play, and maybe the recreational league is looked at as like, well, why bother? You take a whole group of kids and they don't have the opportunity to participate at the same level as kids from wealthier families, and that's a problem in a society, in my opinion. So as far as the theological application to this, what I have seen is that there is definitely a sense of an idol type of mentality towards sports figures in our country, whether it be way back to Michael Jordan, to those that are there today in every sport, football, basketball, baseball, and many of the other sports, to where they have clothing lines and they make so much money. And even the college, Division I college athletes are very much idolized in our community. And so this has kind of pushed its way into the youth arena too, where parents and kids alike are really striving for this. And so theologically speaking, obviously there's freedom in Christ to participate in these things. There's nothing inherently sinful about participating in sports and recreation and those kinds of things. So the question has to be, for believers, what's the motivation for us behind our children participating at this level? What the questions that might be asked are, am I using finances for this in a way that could be better used for the kingdom? Or am I motivated and participating and always looking for to use this as opportunities to spread the gospel? And the verse that I really found that I liked to apply to this was 1 Timothy 4:12, that says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." And I think that if both parents, coaches, and athletes, young athletes themselves, who are believers, hold themselves to the standard of that verse, there's a much better chance that our motivation behind whether we participate or don't participate at the elite level, we are going to be able to stay kingdom-minded about it, and that's going to be for the benefit of everyone. So this was my project, and definitely an interesting cultural trend with great effects all across the board. So thanks.